What if I told you that Ferrari's biggest enemy is neither Red Bull, nor McLaren, nor even Mercedes, but Ferrari itself? What if Hamilton's arrival has not only brought no victories, but has ignited an internal war that could end in disaster? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. What triggered this storm at Ferrari was not a collision on the track, nor a catastrophic technical failure. It was something much deeper and more symbolic. Team Principal Fred Vasseur breaking a tradition that has been embedded in the Scuderia's DNA for decades. Vasseur has done something unthinkable by Maranello standards, giving the green light to his drivers to publicly criticize the team. So without detours, a radical change in an organization where internal discipline and external opacity have historically been sacred. This decision, which might seem minor in other teams such as Mercedes or McLaren, represents a structural fracture at Ferrari. It is not just any license. It is a direct and frontal message to the high command, especially to President John Elkann, who days before had publicly demanded less words and more work, alluding to the attitude of the pilots. Vasseur, without mentioning it directly, has responded forcefully. Not only will it not suppress its pilots, you are giving them permission to speak. He even encourages them to do so. This position is not born of whim. It is born from a completely different management philosophy than the one that has reigned at Ferrari for years. Vasseur comes from a background where brutally honest analysis is part of the high-performance culture. In recent statements, he left a phrase that has resonated throughout the category. "I would be devastated if my drivers told me that we are doing a good job." The phrase not only disorients, but also unmasks a new type of leadership, one that considers complacency more dangerous than public criticism. But this strategy is a double-edged sword, because in modern F1, public perception matters as much as on-track performance. Giving pilots the freedom to point out internal failures may seem like an honest move, but it also unleashes a war of narratives. Now, every technical error, every bad decision in the pits, or every failed update can become a scandal amplified by the team's own protagonists. And this is where the contrast with Elkann's vision becomes insurmountable. While the president seeks to protect the institutional image, maintain internal cohesion, and limit the fissures visible to the outside, Vasseur is committed to a cultural cleansing, even if that means media exposure. They are two completely opposite ways of understanding how Ferrari should be governed. And now they are colliding head-on in public with millions of eyes watching. The impact of this green light is also measured in the effect it has had on the media. In just 72 hours, leading newspapers in Italy and the United Kingdom spoke of a political crisis in Maranello. And this is not coincidental, because when the head of the team authorizes criticism, internal pressures multiply, rumors run wild, and the corridors of the paddock are filled with contradictory versions. Suddenly, we're not just talking about the car. It talks about power. Who has it, who is losing it, and who might leave if this doesn't change. This is how this story begins, not with roaring engines, but with strategic statements that have made it clear that the real Ferrari fire is not under the hood, but in the highest offices of the Scuderia. Vasseur has taken a stance that directly challenges the status quo of one of the most powerful, secretive, and traditional institutions in sport. And he has done it at a time when Ferrari is in a crisis of results, of identity, and now also of leadership. Lewis Hamilton did not come to Ferrari just as another driver. It came as a symbol. 7-time world champion, architect of Mercedes dominance, a master of technical detail and quiet but influential leadership. His signing was not just a sporting move. It was a declaration of intent on the part of Fred Vasseur to transform Ferrari from within. But what seemed like the beginning of a golden era is turning into a perfect storm. From the first days of the preseason, the clash was evident. Hamilton brought with him a rigorous, almost surgical working methodology based on years of excellence at Brackley. He presented technical reports, known internally as the Lewis documents, where he detailed point by point the areas that, from his experience, should be improved in the SF25. Mass distribution, power map, rear axle response in slow corners, coordination between the wall and the drivers. Every detail meticulously displayed. But those documents were not only not implemented. According to various sources, they were not even taken seriously by the old guard engineers of Maranello. What is happening at Ferrari is not a simple disagreement between managers. It is not a difference in style, nor a tactical divergence. It is a major political fracture which threatens to divide the team from its very leadership. And the two protagonists of this confrontation could not be more different. On the one hand, John Leclerc, president of Ferrari and representative of the Agnelli lineage, a figure of institutional power who defends order, corporate image, and traditional hierarchy. On the other, Frédéric Vasseur, an engineer with a reformist mentality, a team manager who seeks to dismantle the old habits of Maranello to establish a modern, open, and meritocratic culture. This collision has not arisen from nowhere. From day one, Vasseur came to Ferrari knowing that improving the car would not be enough. Their challenge was much greater, changing the way Ferrari thinks, works, and communicates. But what I didn't expect is that the resistance would come from so high up. Leclerc, who in previous years had already pushed for technical layoffs and structural changes without continued success, now seems determined to regain direct control over the narrative and internal functioning of the team. And he has reacted harshly to recent events. Leclerc's public statements leave no room for doubt. His demand for fewer words and more work was not a simple comment. It was a veiled warning, addressed directly to both the pilots and Vasseur. But the French director's response was just as forceful. Instead of aligning himself with that vision of institutional silence, he decided to break the mold. He gave permission, and not only that, he gave legitimacy to Hamilton and Leclerc to speak freely. It was an act of symbolic insubordination, but with real implications. Because at Ferrari, everything communicates. And when two leaders send contradictory messages to the outside world, the organization enters a collision zone. Who should engineers obey? Who does the communications department answer to? What vision guides the development of the car? What message is conveyed to the sponsors, to the media, to the paddock? Internally, this has created an atmosphere of uncertainty. Leaks have increased, rumors are multiplying, and the feeling that there are two Ferraris coexisting has settled into structure. One, Leclerc's Ferrari, vertical, disciplined, protective of his legacy, obsessed with image. Another, Vasseur's Ferrari, transparent, confrontational, willing to suffer today to transform tomorrow. Two irreconcilable visions that now confront each other in the midst of a crisis of results. The situation is aggravated by a particularly sensitive context. Ferrari is coming off a winless season, relegated to fourth place in the championship, while McLaren and Mercedes gain momentum. And instead of showing unity, it is in full internal war. For the Italian media, this dispute is not just a disagreement of styles. It is a symptom that Ferrari's governance model is obsolete. That we cannot continue trying to modernize the Scuderia with structures from the 90s. The key now is who gives in first. Leclerc has the institutional power, the backing of the board of directors, the control of the corporate narrative. But Vasseur has something that could be even more dangerous, the support of the pilots. If Hamilton and Leclerc together support Vasseur's vision, any attempt by the president to silence the team will be seen as authoritarianism. If, on the other hand, chaos gets out of control, Vasseur could be exposed, portrayed as a leader who destabilizes more than he builds. And meanwhile, the car doesn't win. Updates don't work. The technical tension adds to the political conflict. Ferrari is no longer fighting only Red Bull and McLaren. She is fighting against herself. The chaos unleashed at Ferrari is not a passing storm. It is the type of fracture that, if not managed with surgical precision, can leave scars for years. And the most alarming thing is that no one, neither inside nor outside the team, seems to be clear about how this will end. The future of the Scuderia, that living myth of motorsport, hangs on an invisible thread that stretches between patience, power, and politics. In the short term, the inevitable question is, can these two visions of Ferrari coexist? Can Vasseur continue to lead while openly challenging the company president? Or is he simply buying time before an inevitable outcome? The decisions that will be made in the coming weeks, and not on the track, but in the meeting rooms of Maranello, will define the fate of the season, and perhaps the institutional future of the team. The rumors are already spreading. Some are talking about an ultimatum to Vasseur if the results do not improve before the summer break. Others suggest that Leclerc is considering quiet replacements for certain senior technical positions without consulting directly with the team manager. There has even been speculation about Vasseur's possible resignation if his decision-making power over communication and technical direction is removed. And behind all those movements, two key names, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Hamilton did not join Ferrari to be just another driver. His arrival was loaded with symbolism and expectation. But if this project does not demonstrate a real desire for transformation, it cannot be ruled out that it seeks a way out. He has options, influence, and still an intact reputation as one of the greatest strategic brains on the grid. Will he agree to continue in an environment where his suggestions are ignored, or will he demand a complete restructuring of the technical team as a condition of staying? Leclerc, for his part, has also begun to show signs of impatience. He has already experienced several failed stages at Ferrari. He has seen promises broken season after season, and now, by finding an ideological affinity with Hamilton, he could use his political weight and his long contract to push for profound changes. If Ferrari loses one of these two drivers, or worse, both, the reputational blow would be incalculable. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.